Kia ora koutou katoa, I te tūtahi ka mihi ahau ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohe, ara ko Te Atiawa, ko Taranaki whānui, ko Ngāti Toa Rangatira hoki. Kia ora koutou mō tō manakitanga, kia koutou katoa. Kia koutou, koe tai mai I tēnei ahi te whānau Party Ka-kāriki, me ngā manuhiri katoa, tēnā koutou. Ka tū mana hau ahau mō tēnei kōrero kia koutou, kia mā tika ai te ao tōrangapū mā tātou katoa. He tino harikoa ahau ki te kita ia koutou katoa. Ko Metiria Turei ahau, te kaiarahi takirua o te rōpū Ka-kāriki, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So there's this story about Michael Joseph Savage before he became the first Labour Prime Minister. He was an opposition MP for a very long time, and during the 1920s he used to tour the country building support for his new party. And he warned people that the economic system was broken, that it was unfair, and that it had corrupted the political process, that the system was rigged in ways that were dangerous and unstable. And he talked about the role of government in fixing these problems, preventing collapse, making things fair again. And one day, so the story goes, he asked a farmer at one of these meetings, "Do I have your vote, sir?" And this farmer said, "Well, you've got a lot of big ideas. Some of them sound right, but you and your party have never been in government. And I've learned on the farm," he said, "that you never let a man watch your stock who hasn't done it before. So no, you don't have my vote." Years later, in the mid-1930s, Labour had still never been in government. By then, New Zealand was in the depths of the Depression. The agriculture sector was the backbone of the economy, and it had collapsed. There was mass unemployment, mass farm bankruptcies, riots. During the election campaign in 1935, Savage was by then the leader of the opposition. He went back to this province and he saw that same farmer and he said, "Do I have your vote yet? Are you going to let me look after your stock?" And the farmer said, "I don't have any stock anymore. So yes, you have my vote." I've been in Parliament nearly 14 years. I've been opposition leader for almost 7 of those. One of my goals, and the aim of the Green Party, is to try to stop history repeating itself, to prevent yet another systemic collapse like the one that Savage warned about. The depression he warned about and then ended up leading New Zealand through was economic. The problems that we are talking about today and that we are trying to avert are both economic and environmental. They're going to be harder to recover from if we let them happen. And I hear the same doubts expressed about the Greens as they said to Savage, "We like you, we like your ideas, we're worried about the future, but you've never been in government before, so how can we trust you with your vote?" It's a catch-22. So today I want to talk about these reservations that people have about us and to tell you why you can trust us with your vote and with the responsibility of helping to govern our country. And I hope to convince you that you should do this now, because it's a lot easier not to make a mess in the first place than it is to clean one up. The first thing I want to talk about is this idea that the Greens are too radical, too outlandish. We have all these audacious ideas that won't work in the real world. We are the party of new ideas. We make no apology for that. It is very easy in politics to focus on the day-to-day trivia rather than what really matters. The Green Party has taken enormous pride in unashamedly talking about the serious issues. We do not shy away from the hard stuff. We look at pollution and see a world's worth of risk. And so we challenge the damage to our rivers caused by dairying, the use of toxics that puts the bee population at risk, the pollution that puts our very planet at risk. We tackle these hard issues because we know that the solutions are opportunities, not burdens. We see a future where all New Zealand families can swim in our rivers and lakes, where our native birds and forests are humming, and we have certainty in a great future for all of our kids. Just imagine if the government stopped seeing state homes and the people who live in them as a burden, as a problem, better shifted out of sight, so therefore out of mind. Imagine if we had a government instead that worked with the people that lived in those communities to design beautiful new homes and neighbourhoods that people actually want to live in. Michael Joseph Savage made that real once before. We see a future where all New Zealanders live in warm, dry, affordable homes, and where children are no longer at risk of dying simply because of the house that they live in. And we see a New Zealand where our people and our sovereignty are our priority. Not international companies and profit margins, not trade deals with countries who execute their citizens, but a green economy built on fairness, on pay equity, on the new global opportunities that sit just within our reach, if we are willing to lean forward to grasp them. However, under National, we are falling far short of this vision. Rather than leaning forward to take these opportunities, the National Government has sat back and allowed things to get worse. Harmful pollution under this National Government, up. Kids living in poverty, up. Housing unaffordability, up. This is the record of the National Government. Our record is pretty good for a party that's never been in government. We've had agreements with both Labour and with National, and through these, we have delivered significant wins for New Zealanders. Our MOU with National meant over 235,000 New Zealand homes had insulation installed as part of the Warm Up New Zealand scheme. And not only did this mean that there were 235,000 homes worth of warmer Kiwis, but $1.2 billion worth of health benefits came from that scheme as well. Our MOU has delivered more value to New Zealand than from the policies brought to you by the other coalition partners from National. We weren't in coalition with Labour in 2005, but we were still able to secure the electrification of Auckland Rail. We won a commitment to increasing the minimum wage, and 2 of our Green MPs were the government spokespeople on energy efficiency and on Buy Kiwi Made. In just the last 12 months, we supported the Feed the Kids campaign, which has led to hundreds of local initiatives to feed hungry kids in schools. We launched the Yes We Can climate emission reduction plan to show how we can meet a 40% reduction by 2030 by being ambitious for New Zealand. We announced our intention for a gender-balanced cabinet, so that half of all the Green ministers in such a cabinet will be men, because they have a place there too. And of course, we challenged our future coalition partners to do the same. We launched the Kids KiwiSaver scheme to combat growing wealth inequality and to give all of our kids some savings for their future. And we led the walkout of women and men MPs from Parliament to show that rape is not and should never be a political weapon. These wins, these solutions, this leadership shows that we are capable of governing. And sometimes it's true when you threaten conventional wisdom, when you challenge, people feel threatened and they call you ludicrous. For the past few years, we've been questioning the government's reliance on dairy to prop up the economy, and we were told we were foolish many, many times until the price of milk solids crashed last year. We argue that we need more diversification, more investment in science and innovation for our future economy. And John Key used to tell us, and I quote, that we were away with the fairies for suggesting this, but of course now you see so much of this in their press releases. It pretty much reads like a Green Party election manifesto. We were the first to talk about climate change. Outrageous! National signed the Paris Agreement last year. Capital gains tax, ridiculous, until suddenly we got a version of one in last year's budget. Inequality, foolish. Energy efficient homes, weird. Cycling and public transport. Bill English told us for many years that we were completely wrong to suggest he invest more in cycling and public transport. Now, National and the Greens are working together on building a nationwide cycle trail. We've heard that tomorrow his boss, the Prime Minister, is finally going to announce funding for the Auckland Central Rail Link. Oh, that's another idea we campaign for. There are two lessons here that we need to remember. The first is that the ideas that are attacked as radical when the Greens propose them become conventional, sensible solutions very quickly when other parties adopt them. And that tells us something about the gap between perception and reality when it comes to the Green Party. The second is that if you still think the Green ideas are too radical for government, then you've got a problem, because no matter which party you vote for, a lot of the new ideas and new solutions come from us. The difference, of course, is that the solutions we propose are thought through. They flow from our values. They're designed to complement each other. And when the other parties cherry-pick them, it's usually out of a motivation to be seen to be doing something while the solution itself is diluted. So, if you like our ideas, but you want them done properly, you really need to get us into government. The other thing I would say about this notion that we're too radical is that when it comes to environmental and social and economic issues, we are arguably quite conservative. We think that the economic experiment imposed on our country over the last 30 years is radical. We think the doubling of dairy cows and the increasing pollution that's killing our rivers and streams is radical. We think a government that wants to mine our national parks is frankly fanatical. We think the steep rise in child poverty and in poverty-related child death is radically irresponsible. It's not radical to stand against the disintegration of our environment and our society. It would be radical not to do so. One of the core strengths of the Green Party is that we think long-term. I talked about Michael Joseph Savage and the first Labour government, and a lot of the reforms from that time are still with us today, 80 years later. State housing, free hospital care, free secondary education, and yes, some of those proposals, those policies have been chipped away at, but their essence remains core to us as New Zealanders. We want our accomplishments to have that same sustained popular support as those first Labour reforms all those years ago. The progressive green change that we want to make happen has the potential to be the potent idea mix for the problems of the early 21st century. And they will steer us in a course towards prosperity. But change isn't the easy route. This national government likes to take the easy route. It likes to make minimal changes. They like to do just enough so that we feel like something is happening. But real and meaningful change is much harder. Over this summer break, I've been in Dunedin. Beautiful, Dunedin's beautiful. Reconnecting as you do with family and with friends. And I've been thinking about my personal contribution to this work, to this hard work, whether I can still make a difference, whether I'm still useful to the Green kaupapa. And the time that I spent out of the Beltway, doing very ordinary things away from politics, I thought more and more about why it is that I am a Green. And it is because we take on the big problems, because we do talk about the hard issues that other parties prefer to ignore. Climate, environment, poverty, what's happening with our kids. And that's because we talk about these things, because we remember who we belong to and who we answer to. I remembered ka whawhai tonu mātou. The struggle for justice and equality is the struggle without end. And I remembered that it is a great privilege and a great responsibility to take up that struggle and to rise to be a leader in it. I'm in politics because I believe in the transformative power of government. And a government with the Greens in it will be transformative. We don't want to make change that will abandon people or communities. We have had enough of that kind of change in my lifetime, and we know what it does to our loved ones. We want to make change that will still be helping people for the next 80 years. And we can't do that if the change is chaotic or unpopular and subsequent governments simply sweep it away. The Green Party is committed to change that endures. So how are we going to do that? Well, we'll be talking about our major policies over the next 12 months, and you will see clearly what those changes are that we propose. But part of the philosophy of the Greens is not just about the big ideas, but also looking for those small changes you can make that will have a big outcome. And the policy that I'm announcing today is a small change to our political process that will have a big impact on our democracy. Now, during election campaigns, as I'm sure you all know, there's always this conflict and a lot of shouting between politicians about what policy costs what and where you're going to find the money, which party is going to get us out of surplus 10 minutes earlier than the other parties, and so on and so on and so on. We, in the Greens, get criticised a lot for the supposed cost of our policies, but we do extensive policy costing work before each election. We release fiscal statements. We get these statements audited. National doesn't do that. They don't, because there's a perception that they're sensible and trustworthy with the economy. And so the reality is that they get to make it up as they go. Money appears out of thin air and no one even blinks. The asset sales is a good example. John Key pitched it as freeing up some $7 to $10 billion. They got around $4.7 billion out of those asset sales. And then Bill English promised to spend that money many times over in completely different ways depending on who he was talking to. We got scammed and no one even blinked. So what I'm announcing today is a measure designed to bring a little more transparency and accountability into New Zealand politics. Today, we have sent a letter to all of the party leaders asking them for support across the House to establish an independent unit inside Treasury to cost policy promises. Political parties can submit their policies for costing to this independent unit, which would then produce a report with the information on the fiscal and the wider economic implications of that policy idea. So instead of New Zealanders making their decisions based on spin and who is shouting the loudest and who gets more TV, they will have meaningful, independently verified information instead. It will also ensure that the policy promises are stable and durable, because parties won't be able to promise the earth unless they have the earth to give. So we're going to work with other political parties in Parliament to try to make this a reality for the 2017 election. It's going to be very interesting to see who supports it and who opposes it. I'm very hopeful that everyone will support it. It won't cost much. It's good for our democracy. It's good for New Zealand. Political power can transform the country for the better and make a positive difference to the lives of generations to come if that power is exercised with responsibility and with caution. So the first things we should ask of those who seek to wield that political power is, what are they going to do, how are they going to do it, and what it's going to cost. So we call on other political parties to welcome this idea and to work with us to make next year's election more accountable and more democratic for New Zealand. To close this gap that we have between perception and reality, the gap between what political leaders say and what we actually do. The role of government is not to provide entertainment or sideshows. The role of government is to lead our country, to fix the problems that need fixing. The Green Party has been developing solutions, political solutions, for nearly 2 decades now. 2 decades where our solutions have been adopted by other parties because we got it right. Now, the future can be scary to think about, but it doesn't have to be. We will make enduring green change that keeps children and families at the heart of everything we do when we are in government. The solutions to the problems we face are not radical or outlandish. The solutions are transformative. So I have one key point that I would really like you to take away today. One thing about the Green Party and our political system. Well, change is not easy, and meaningful change takes hard work. The Green Party is ready for that job. Together, we are heading towards a beautiful tomorrow. Kia ora koutou katoa.